Oh, it's a big idea the governor came out with today, and it's got a lot of people talking big time. It's not usual that I use the same word in the opening line of the journal. I'm big, but it was a big deal today that the governor came out with her Road Works program, which heads my rundown and is the subject of my conversation with my guest this evening, who represents the trucking industry, at least for tonight's program, and not happy. And I don't think it's just knee-jerk. I think this is going to be a very interesting learning exercise with this concept of what we're going to do to improve the roads and bridges around. Good evening. Nice to have you aboard. Dan York, State of Mind. You know what yours is, and I hope to hear from you on your state of mind. That's a segment. There's a phone number, all that. Everybody good? Nice spring day. Let's go to the rundown, find out what's happening here. Yes, it's called Road Works. I'm not so sure the plan works, but I applaud the governor for getting after what is clearly the elephant in the room in the state, and that is that our infrastructure is pitiful. Now, for those of you who are thinking the Paw Sox are going to jack up prices with this Providence Stadium, there was an interesting promise in a Larry Lucchino op-ed piece in the Journal today. We'll talk about that. What else do we have for you? That's a good idea. Simple as that. And it's not about my feet. It's about the kids' feet and holding politicians' feet to the fire. Your state of mind, of course. You'll engage at your leisure. Let's dig into the rundown before we talk about all of this with my guest. Yes, Road Works is the name of the project. Here is the headline from today's interesting press conference held underneath an overpass by the miserably constructed and maintained 610 connector. It serves as kind of the symbol of how pathetic our infrastructure is, the disrepair that our roads and bridges are in, and that's something that everybody agrees about. What to do about that and how to pay for the fix is the $5 billion question. In this particular case, though, it's a $5 billion initiative, but as I'm learning, it's near $4 billion are already in the budget over 10 years. But what's happening here is that the governor's decided to put a $700 million revenue anticipation bond into play, which lets her spend money immediately as long as there's a revenue source dedicated to paying it off. It's called tolls on commercial trucks, not our cars, just them people. Here's what she said.
Under this plan, if we get this executed, we're projected to reach 90% structural sufficiency of our bridges in less than 10 years. We'll be going from 50 out of 50, some of the worst roads and bridges, to 90% structural sufficiency. That's something we can be proud of. That'll make businesses want to be here, and we'll put people to work in the process.
I'll tell you, in general, the governor's presentation was pretty good. I listened to all of it. It was a late morning presentation prior to my noon radio show, so I couldn't get over to the press conference. The one thing the governor did say, though, was a big misstep, and I'll show you that just here at the end. In the meantime, Nick Mattiello, the House Speaker, started arguing himself on how good this plan is, subtly. Listen.
Of course, the devil's always in the details, and we'll vet the proposal that actually comes forth in our Finance Committee and work collaboratively to make it the best possible proposal. You know, one of the things that I'm concerned with is our local Rhode Island trucking company. So that's something that we're going to have to look at, and we'll find solutions to every complication that comes along.
Well, you know, I would think that they'd have the solutions to the complications before they do a joint press conference announcing that a bill is going in. Just my thought. Only tolling commercial trucks? I'm not sure about the constitutionality of that. We're going to have to investigate that. And then maybe exempting local Rhode Island trucking companies from the rest of the poor trucking companies that got to come through the 50-mile expanse of Rhode Island for about a $40 projected pass-through, because that's what they're talking about. I'm not so sure that's legal either according to federal standards. And so I would like to see them vet this stuff, including this. Show the graphic, Laura, will you? According to the administration, the proposal is that you know, level 6 trucks, classification 6 through 12, will be those that will pay the funding. But the governor said at the microphone today, I mean the tolling, the governor said, well, you know what, you know, only 18-wheelers. So she wasn't even clear on her own proposal. Tough start. We'll talk about it in our guest segment coming up. All right, $8. $8. Get your tickets for $8. Here's the headline in the Providence Journal op-ed piece today by Larry Lucchino. talking about the Rhode Island gem of a downtown ballpark. Clearly, with the passing of Jim Skeffington, Larry Lucchino continues to march on with the mission to move the Paw Sox to the Providence 195 redevelopment site. And he makes a whole bunch of arguments, sans, meaning without the money structure, because I think they learned a tough lesson that first ask was way too much. It's often difficult to, well, it is pretty difficult to actually turn public sentiment against the AAA baseball team. They've managed to do that with the pretty cocky financial ask early on. Let's see how that mitigates. But one of the things that people have worried about is the economy of going to a baseball game, right? Well, they move it downtown, the ticket prices are going to go through the roof. If you look at his op-ed piece, he says that there will be a commitment by the Providence Red Sox or the Rhode Island Red Sox or whatever they are, the 195 Red Sox, to keep 25% of the ticket prices at $8 for a guarantee of 5 years. Okay. He offered perspective on the radio today.
We're losing sight of the whole array of public benefits that flow from a ballpark like this in this location, and it struck me that it was time to articulate why it was more than a ballpark, and to think of this only as a ballpark project is to minimalize its significance.
He has a very urgent timetable still, just like Jim Skeffington did, God rest his soul, and that is that he wants a decision by the General Assembly and the governor by the end of this legislative session. And if you're scoring at home, that means a few weeks. Midnight hoops, always a good idea. I haven't played a good game of hoops in a long time. You know, you get to this age, the knees start to go. I was a pretty good point guard in my day, but I'm bloviating. Here's the headline. Laura, do you think I was a good point guard in my day? Do you believe? Laura has no opinion. I wouldn't ask Jess. I don't even want to know the answer. Midnight basketball aims to prevent violence. I don't think you ever make a mistake by trying to keep the youth active in a city or any environment. Here's Eyewitness News, short take.
Obviously, we never like to see any acts of violence, so this timing is perfect for us. We have this, along with a couple of other programs we're looking to roll out this summer, and it's necessary to create opportunity, activities, programs, sports.
And this is a way for us to bring folks in and say, look, this is available, this is here specifically for you.
Mayor Lorza gets the cheesy smile award, though. But you know, but you know what? He also gets an award for a good idea. The Chiefs got a good idea. You can never go wrong with this. Interestingly enough, it's like a $25 fee for the kids to play, and they got, what, a couple hundred already signed up for 24 teams. It's good stuff. What do you mean you don't know what a point guard is? He doesn't know what a point guard is. Jess is Googling point guard. Okay? Are you Googling point guard? Okay, she knows. Anyway, I pass the ball a lot. That's okay, Laura. You get that one. I was also not tall. I'm also the short people. That's right, Laura. It's the short people. Okay, can we move along? A little distracted here. Now my head hurts. In addition to the kids' feet hurt. The headline. I love this. I love when the high schoolers. You know why? The high schoolers have no agenda other than what they want. Meaning, they've got no political alliances. Jorge Elorza ran for mayor and said that he was going to lower the distance that they have without subsidy for a bus pass. It was 3 miles. Remember, we did a whole bunch of shows with the kids. They got it down to 2.5 miles. Now they want to get it down to 2 miles. He said he would do so in the campaign. Right now he's thinking, oh, I'm looking at the numbers now, I'm not so sure. And they're not having it.
The first time that they gave us the bus passes, I was really extremely happy. Now that he did not include it in the budget, I was thinking like, well, what do we do now? And this is what we're going to do now.
Do you hear him? My feet hurt. It is outrageous that we make these kids walk the streets of Providence in snowstorms with the conditions of the streets 2.5 miles without being able to get subsidized and get on a Ripter bus. I love them. I want them back here. I want them to hold the mayor's feet to the fire. They might be the first group that actually follows through and holds an elected official accountable for what they promise during a campaign. Your state of mind is important to us, what you have to say. You can tweet at us, Facebook post, call us, leave a voicemail. Love the voicemails. We love the Facebook post too. Here's one from the bishop's visit last night. Mary asks, would you ask Bishop Tobin if the teaching magisterium of the church has an obligation to listen to both theologians without silencing them and to the voice of the faithful as well? It seems to me that an informed faith will have all three insights, not just one. Mary, that is a very heady theological conversation that you've started on Facebook. I have the bishop on the radio tomorrow, and I shall pose the question to him. My guess will be, in part, that his answer might include the notion that the church is not a democracy, but a thoughtful question. When we come back, the truckers are not happy, and I think we understand why. All right, so this morning on WPRO, Joshua was on, and we grabbed him because it's important to hear from the truckers right away. The Raimondo administration reportedly wants to come in here at some early juncture to talk about this Road Works program, the $700 million revenue bond that would be funded by truck tolls for the bridge repairs. And Joshua Werchadlo is the Vice President of J-Line Transportation. Welcome. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
And you are the company, a short brief on the company. You're from?
It's in East Providence.
Okay.
It's started in 1981. It's a family company. We've been in Rhode Island for 34 years.
Own a bunch of 18-wheelers?
Yep.
What kind of product do you move around?
Pretty much everything. We do food. We do, building materials, retail goods. So anything and everything.
Business good?
It has been.
Yeah?
For the last
Not
about
anymore?
6 months. Yeah.
Sorry. Kidding. I hope not. That's what you're worried about.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
I think this new tax that's been proposed is going to be devastating to any Rhode Island-based trucking companies. We're just starting to recover from the recession, and now, this tax is going to cripple an entire industry in Rhode Island. This industry provides a lot more jobs than any construction jobs that are proposed in this new tax.
How?
Drivers.
Well, how many drivers do you have for 45? Explain that to me.
Well, our company itself has about 30 drivers,
Okay.
but I'm talking statewide. If companies decide no longer to do business here, or
Oh, okay. You're talking about the economic impact in general.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. But there are, Josh, there are a lot of nuances to the trucking industry that most people really don't pay attention to or would know about. One of the things I found interesting about the proposal, from a bird's eye point of view, is that it's kind of nifty to throw a solution for the bridges away from the taxpayers and the automobile drivers. At first glance, it's smart politics. I don't know if they've actually second, third, or fourth, fifth glanced through targeting your industry. But you recognize that it's pretty palatable, at least from the convenience factor for the taxpayer, right?
Yeah, they're protected. I mean, it's all politics. They're protected. I mean, there's a much better way to do this, and everybody knows what it is. It's the gas tax, increasing that. It's a fair, even way to do it. But no politician wants to go through with it because it means that people are going to squawk about it. Nobody wants to pay more at the pump.
Well, as your industry, and I'm sure you're part of the Trucking Association, right? So you're an active member of that. Have you guys taken a look at what? Well, before I even say that, were you surprised by this whole thing? Have you had any time to do any homework or just regroup from this announcement?
No, it was blindsided. And I mean, I know that the Rhode Island Trucking Association, which is a very strong association in the state, has or thought they had a good relationship with Governor Raimondo and House Speaker Mattiello. But they were given no advance notice of this. It was all sprung on everyone last second, with no discussion, no involvement.
I mean, it's puzzling.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't going to say, thank you so much, what a great idea.
I know, it's, yeah.
Right?
I
So
mean,
they're probably thinking, well, look, let's just do it, let the blank hit the fan, and we'll work through it.
Yeah.
But that's really not a great way.
It was by design, I'm sure.
Yeah, but the thing is that, and I'm arguing on your side here, it would have been nice maybe to actually get some off-the-record confidential feedback,
Right.
but they haven't done that.
No, they haven't.
So your feedback will be public.
Yes.
And I'm guessing you'll be racing to the hearings when they come, and you'll be lining up with all sorts of arguments against. What do you think will be the principal arguments that you'll legitimately bring to the table here?
Besides the fact that this is an unfair tax, the trucking companies already pay for roads and bridges. Some estimates say about 30% of all road and bridge repair is paid for by trucking taxes. We're taxed on something called the International Fuel Tax Agreement, which is a formula that takes into account the miles you travel in each state and the gallons purchased in each state. And we also pay apportion fees to each state when we register our trucks. This is a double tax, basically. That's the best argument that I can think of. But the second thing that you could bring to the public is that the price of everything is going to go up if we're paying tolls on every single bridge we go through. Prices for everyone will go up.
Well, it's interesting the distinction that the Speaker of the House potentially makes between Rhode Island companies and trucks that are coming through from Arkansas, right? We'll talk about that in a second. The notion that you're double taxed, though, what happens when you drive through Massachusetts on the Mass Pike? You're tolled at a higher rate than my car is tolled, and it's $120 to get across Pennsylvania on the Penn Turnpike, and in Maine it's $38 or whatever it is, and so.
Those are turnpikes. So those are roads that are tolled, the entire road. And what they've done here is they've made it so that you can't travel through the state anywhere. You could travel through Massachusetts without hitting the pike. You can travel almost anywhere without hitting the pike in Massachusetts. But in Rhode Island, they're going to toll 17 to 20 bridges here. You can't go anywhere without being tolled. That's the difference.
What's the federal issue involved in making 95 a pike? Because the Maine Turnpike is 95 and the Pennsylvania Turnpike is 70? Oh, what is it, 70? It's 70.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is.
70
The
or 80.
Thruway in New York is 87.
Yeah.
Can they beat you at that game by eventually? I'm sure that's a whole big constitutional and federal rigmarole.
Yeah, and I did hear something about that. I think it was if it was a turnpike before 1949 or something like that, it could stay a turnpike. But anything after that could not be a tolled turnpike. So that's why they've gone through and they're only tolling bridges. They're not tolling roads because that's all they can do in this plan.
Well, the bridges are the roads.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, listen, there's the Iowa Bridge, there's the Newport Bridge, there's the Connet River Bridge that we went through all the rigmarole on. But we're talking about bridges that you're passing through that you don't know are even bridges.
Right.
So, come on, right?
Exactly.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about the differences between local trucking, national trucking, and whether these guys might be able to argue the way out of this thing. Stay with us.
Of course, the devil's always in the details, and we'll vet the proposal that actually comes forth in our Finance Committee and work collaboratively to make it the best possible proposal. One of the things that I'm concerned with is our local Rhode Island trucking company. So that's something that we're going to have to look at, and we'll find solutions to every complication that comes along.
I think you and I, Josh, see the Speaker's comments almost the same way. Big announcement, big initiative, big proposal. I'm walking it back at the announcement.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he has to know that this is going to cripple Rhode Island trucking companies if it goes through the way they're proposing it. There has to be some kind of an exemption for Rhode Island-based trucking companies to.
I'm not sure that's legal.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Yeah, and so I got some pretty smart people calling the show today, talking about how federal federal regulations on federal highways, state highways that are federally funded, 95, 295, 195, that would be unconstitutional or federally irregulatable because the guy in Arkansas that's driving through has got the same right to a federal highway that you do.
Exactly. So it remains to be seen on if there's anything they can do to try to help the trucking companies that are based in Rhode Island.
What is, if it's $40 to cross the state now for your single truck, one way, wherever the heck you're going. So you start in Westerly and you exit out of Cumberland, you're going north to Boston to deliver some fish or whatever. What do you think that economic impact is going to be? Have you had time to digest how powerful and painful it really is?
No, I haven't. I mean, I think about our company, which does a lot of LTL, which is less than truckload pickups. So we put probably
LTL, less than truckload pickups.
Yeah, right. So
meaning you're not full.
Exactly. So we do like say you're doing 4 or 5 shipments on one truck. You're bouncing all around the state. So you're going to hit 4, 5, 6 of these tolled areas at one time. So it's almost more of a burden to a Rhode Island truck passing through the state than it would be someone who's just going up 95 through the state, because they're only going to be hitting, you know, whatever bridges are on that path they're taking, whereas someone who's bouncing around is going to hit all sorts of bridges throughout the state.
Maybe they'll put up an easy pass discount system. What do you think? It's only day one, so I won't hold you to this. What do you think your argument will result in at the end of this if they try to ram something through at the end of the session? Do you think you're going to just end up paying for it? Do you think they'll stop it in its tracks for further study? Do you think you'll end up with some kind of discount? What's your instinct tell you?
My instinct tells me that they're going to hear the pushback on this. I think that they're going to, eventually it'll end up going through with some kind of exemption or discount for Rhode Island trucks if that's legal, and if it's not, they got to find some way to make it legal. And if they can't find some way to help with that, then I guess I'm not sure what happens from there.
How does your industry sell the pain to the people? Because again, the political deftness of this is that it's not right in my Easy Pass, my Fast Pass, whatever. It's not right in my wallet, and so, you know, it's you guys with the trucks.
Right. I mean, you have to pass it on, obviously, but people don't want to hear it, and they don't accept it, and they don't care. So it's difficult to pass it on at the same time.
Will your trucking association, and again, I'm not going to hold you to it, I'm sure they're all, I guess you guys are all talking and convening and press releasing, preparing as we speak, but do you have enough money in your industry associations to do an ad campaign and to really argue this thing and to orient the consumer public about what might be the devastation of the whole thing?
I'm sure that we could get everyone in the industry to contribute to something like that, but I think the problem is the time. It seems like they sprung this on us last second. They have everything in place. The bill is already, I think, introduced to the legislature. So I think this is going to happen quick, and I don't know if there'll be time for an ad campaign to have any kind of effect.
What's your message to the people on this?
I would say that we already have a better plan in place that has worked. It just needs to be increased, and that's the gas tax. There's no reason.
Easier right now because we're under $3 a gallon.
Yeah, right.
You know, we get back to $4.75.
Yeah, then it's painful.
People are going to want to wring your neck.
True.
You know.
But it's still better than crippling an industry in the state, an industry that's still trying to recover from the recession.
Well, you know, we're the only state that doesn't have the tolling, yet the proposal will make us the only state that only makes it on the trucks.
Yeah, right.
Another chapter in the book that I'm writing, only in Rhode Island, don't you think?
Yeah.
All right, well, look, can we continue the dialogue and check back with us when you guys know what your argument's going to be?
Yes.
Fascinating that you weren't even previewed.
Disappointing, for sure.
All right, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. One more thing when we come back. Please stay with us. You know, listen, I credit Governor Raimondo and anybody who wants to think big and fix our infrastructure. So there's got to be a better way. And the truckers think it's gas tax. And you know what? They very well be right. When I see the speaker say this again, let me run this again. Run this, will you, Laura?
Of course, the devil's always in the details, and we'll vet the proposal that actually comes forth in our Finance Committee and work collaboratively to make it the best possible proposal. You know, one of the things that I'm concerned with is our local Rhode Island trucking company. So that's something that we're going to have to look at, and we'll find solutions to every complication that comes along.
They as a team introduce it, and this thing's not even over because it hasn't even started. More on that tomorrow on the radio on WPRL. The Bishop to know too. I got to go back.